Last time on The Problem with Nonprofits.
He decided to fight back against fascism and white supremacy by giving $20 to the SPLC.
How much do their workers get paid? How much do their CEOs get paid? I wonder if there are any YouTube videos explaining how nonprofits work.
Part 1. The Nonprofit Industrial Complex.
What is an industrial complex?
Good question, John. It all goes back to 1961 when Republican President Dwight Eisenhower used the term military industrial complex in a farewell address to the American people.
We must guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought, by the military-industrial complex.
After Eisenhower coined the term industrial complex in 1961, it didn't get used a whole lot outside of a handful of academic publications until Angela Davis adopted it to introduce the concept of the prison industrial complex in 1996, which eventually inspired Michelle Alexander's book, The New Jim Crow, which inspired Ava DuVernay's now extremely well-known documentary titled 13th. Anyway, super quick review. The two most well-known industrial complex concepts have been military industrial complex, 1961, prison industrial complex, 1996. And to answer your general question about what an industrial complex is, John, it's when one for-profit industry successfully develops an interlocking, interdependent system of institutions that serve to maintain profits for that industry. Everyone involved needs for that industry to keep growing profits indefinitely because they all now depend on those profits for their own institutions to survive. With the military-industrial complex, it starts with weapons companies needing to make and sell more weapons every year to maximize profit, which results in interlocking relationships between the military, Department of Defense, construction companies, steel manufacturers, engineering firms, political lobbying consultants. You get the idea. Same with the prison industrial complex. But instead of selling weapons, it's about building prisons, keeping those prisons full, making sure there's always a highly criminalized population to put into those prisons, and contracting out to corporations who compete for access to prisoners as a cheap source of labor. So, on the concept of the nonprofit industrial complex, at first it probably seems nonsensical, because if an industrial complex is defined primarily by a for-profit industry's endless need for more profit, to the point that it's going to establish a system of interdependency across tons of other institutions to maintain its ability to keep making more profit, how the hell could nonprofits ever fit into such a thing?
Whoa, I never thought of it like that. Then again, I'd never heard of the nonprofit industrial complex until now. Where did the term come from? And what does it mean?
Down the rabbit hole we go, John. In 2004, a collection of essays were published in an anthology called The Revolution Will Not Be Funded, Beyond the Nonprofit Industrial Complex, by a group called INCITE, Women of Color Against Violence. By the way, from here forward, I'm going to call the nonprofit industrial complex the NPIC to save a little time. Anyway, INCITE defined the NPIC as a system of relationships between the state or local and federal governments, the owning classes, foundations, and social service and social justice focused nonprofit organizations. This system of relationships results in the surveillance, control, derailment, and everyday management of political movements. They go on to say that the state uses nonprofits to monitor and control social justice movements, divert public monies into private hands through foundations, manage and control dissent in order to make the world safe for capitalism, redirect activist energies into career-based modes of organizing instead of mass-based organizing capable of actually transforming society, allow corporations to mask their exploitative and colonial work practices through philanthropic work, encourage social movements to model themselves after capitalist structures rather than to challenge them.
Yeah, so that's pretty over my head. No offense.
Oh, dude, no offense taken. I mean, I have a fucking master's degree, and I read all the time, and I still think INCITE's book is needlessly dense and inaccessible. It's part of an old habit of academic leftists who ironically write about shit like revolution and the working class, and they make literally zero fucking effort to translate their best ideas into something that ordinary, everyday, actual working class people would understand and then potentially apply to their own personal lives. But here's why I think the concept of the NPIC is so goddamn relevant to you and me and everybody else today. Something I mentioned in a video called A History of Nonprofit Corporatization a while back was that as of 2015, the nonprofit sector had become 10% of the American workforce. Right now, the nonprofit sector is the third largest employment sector in the United States. So the thing is, if INCITE was right about any of the things they were saying, then we might want to keep an eye out on this massive and rapidly growing sector of employment we call the nonprofit sector. Here's something to think about. I myself am a nonprofit worker, and have been for about 5 years. This means my livelihood depends on work I do for a nonprofit. And as of the time of this video, I'm making about $28 an hour for what I do. That's a pretty decent fucking wage, right? But think about this. If I perform labor for a wage at a nonprofit, and if nonprofits don't make any profit, how do I get paid? Pop quiz! What do all of the following have in common? IKEA, Direct Relief, Feed the Children, Harvard University, National Policy Institute, the Sustainable Economies Law Center, Kaiser Hospital, Duke University, Best Friends Animal Society, Greenpeace, Smithsonian Institute, Blue Cross Insurance Company, Broad Museum, Food and Water Watch, PragerU, Chan Zuckerberg Foundation, the NFL, the Heritage Foundation, Feeding America, Salvation Army, the NRA.
Nonprofits?
Yep, IKEA, the NFL, Blue Cross Insurance Company, and the NRA are all nonprofits. Well, okay, the NFL is no longer considered a nonprofit as of 2015, but the point I'm making still stands. Nonprofits aren't what you think they are. I really poorly explained this in a video called What the Fuck is a Nonprofit a long time ago, but I've become a bit better at making videos since, so let's revisit the concept before going any further. All a nonprofit actually is an organization that the IRS allows to not pay federal income taxes, because it determines that the organization provides some kind of public benefit. If you and your friends wanted to start a nonprofit, all you'd have to do is form a little group, which you now call a board, develop something called bylaws, then write up a little group purpose called a mission. Let's go down this rabbit hole even further, but with a specific example. You and your friends start a new nonprofit called the Cultural Education Institute. You call yourself the president and director. Your mission? To conduct research and nonpartisan analysis and education on public issues, including social, cultural, and governance issues affecting the United States and other nations in the world. Your friends take on the roles of co-director, treasurer, and secretary. Next, you guys put some forms together, send them to the IRS, and after a few weeks, you get a letter saying that you've been incorporated as a 501c3 nonprofit organization. Now, you guys open a bank account so you can start receiving donations in service of advancing your mission. Over time, you apply for a few grants, you do some outreach, you nurture some relationships you've developed with a couple of wealthier people who believe in what you're doing, and by the end of the year, you achieve the following. You organize 2 conferences in Washington, D.C. on international social and cultural issues, which cost you $65,000. You publish 2 books analyzing historical and educational issues, costing you $23,000. You maintain a website containing original writing on social, cultural, and scientific matters, which costs you $25,000. You were able to pay for over $100,000 worth of educational programming, mostly through grants. Your hard work paid off. Wait. Bam! Oh shit. I don't mean to change the subject or anything, but boom! It's just, hold on, just real quick. Kablamo!
What the fuck? What does this have to do with nonprofits?
So the guy getting punched over and over in this image, his name is Richard Spencer. He's a Nazi.
Hail Trump! Hail our people! Hail victory!
He's the president of a non-profit called the National Policy Institute. They have a board, some bylaws, a mission, they have a president, co-director, treasurer, secretary. They conduct research and nonpartisan analysis and according to their public tax records from 2015, they organized 2 conferences in Washington, D.C. on international, social, and cultural issues.
Published 2 books analyzing historical and educational issues.
What the fuck?
Yeah, that's all from 2015 documents. In 2016, Spencer's Nazi nonprofit brought in over $300,000 in revenue. And I'd go on to tell you more based on their 2017, 18, and 19 tax forms, but I can't find them anywhere online for some reason. Now, okay, to be fair, the vast majority of nonprofit presidents aren't Nazis, at least I'm pretty sure, and most nonprofits aren't explicitly pushing a white supremacist agenda. But isn't it weird how you can donate $20 to a nonprofit like the Southern Poverty Law Center to fight white supremacy, while at the same exact time, white supremacist nonprofits are, well, first of all, they exist, and second, they're securing donations from other white supremacists.
Yeah, that kind of makes me feel sick.
Most people think about nonprofits generically as organizations which do something good. When people think about the ways they can do good, they think of donating to or volunteering for a nonprofit. But as you may have realized over the course of this video, most ordinary people don't really know much about nonprofits. What they are, how they work, that IKEA is a nonprofit, that Richard Spencer is president of a Nazi nonprofit which, as of 2016, was raking in over $300,000 in revenue. But let's shift gears for a minute before we end this part of the series, The Problem with Nonprofits. The majority of nonprofits in the US are centered around healthcare, human services, and education, not Nazism. If we look at this map, we can see most of the largest nonprofits by state are healthcare related. Kaiser, Dignity Health, Sanford Health, Wyoming Medical Center, Shriners Hospitals for Children, and so it's safe to say at this point that the majority of nonprofits really are, in basic, simple terms, good, right? Well, join us next time for part 2, Nonprofit Hospitals. Ashley Altman, Dylan Yee, Fiona, Jamie Smith, Labor Kyle, Pablo Ruiz, Space Commune, Ulrich Volker Anderson, Ace, Esmel Fede, Sebastian Nitu, Sean Best, Super Arjuna Butt, Waltz and Kia. Fairytown, 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 oh Mary, na 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 na, Mary, 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 Mary. Oh fuck, did I forget somebody? Oh yeah.